Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. I wish you all a pleasant listening experience. The book I'm interpreting for you today is called Learn Optimism. In daily life, everyone encounters various pressures and setbacks, from childhood to adulthood, from school to the workplace, from material to emotional aspects. Unpleasant things seem to be everywhere. However, people's attitudes toward setbacks vary greatly. Some people choose to view life more optimistically. In their eyes, setbacks and difficulties are temporary and will not significantly affect them. On the other hand, some people are accustomed to a pessimistic view of life. They sigh and feel sorrowful when things don't go well, and may even fall into a state of depression. So why can some people calmly face life while others easily fall into a pessimistic and negative state? How can we adopt a more optimistic outlook on unfortunate events in life? The book I'm talking about today tells us that as long as you hold optimistic beliefs about the future, you can definitely stay away from pessimism and depression, leading a happier life. Moreover, the author emphatically points out that optimism is a skill that can be mastered through learning. The author of this book, Martin E. P. Seligman, is a professor in the Department of Psychology at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. He strongly advocates for the establishment of positive psychology, laying the disciplinary structure of positive psychology. Therefore, he is recognized as the father of positive psychology. Seligman made history by being elected as the president of the American Psychological Association with the highest number of votes, earning him a prestigious position in the American psychology community. In addition, he is also a best-selling author, having published more than 20 best-selling works so far. Now, I will interpret this book for you from three aspects. What is a pessimist? What is an optimist? What are the root causes of pessimism and optimism? How to lead a more optimistic life and stay away from pessimism. Alright, let's start with the first question: what is a pessimist? What is an optimist? At the beginning of this book, the author uses a real-life story to portray the self-portraits of pessimists and optimists. A couple has just welcomed a beautiful daughter, but amid their joy, they discover some unusual behavior in the child. When they make sounds to attract the child's attention, there is no response. Faced with this situation, the couple's reactions are quite different. The father immediately thinks that their daughter is a dragon child, while the mother disagrees, believing that her husband should not jump to conclusions. The mother consults parenting guides, explaining to the father that a newborn's delayed response is likely a normal phenomenon. However, the father does not feel any better because his grandfather was a dragon man, and he believes there is a high probability that his daughter is congenitally deaf. The father blames himself for his daughter's condition, but the mother does not lose hope. She schedules an appointment with a pediatrician for the next week to have the child examined and works hard to calm her husband down. Throughout the weekend, the father is immersed in imagining a bleak future for his daughter, feeling extremely low and unable to do anything. Despite the pediatrician reassuring them after the examination that the child's hearing is fine, the father still refuses to believe it. It's only when the child reacts to the sound of a truck that the father finally believes that his daughter is not a dragon, and his mood gradually improves. This case vividly illustrates the different reactions of pessimists and optimists when facing setbacks. Optimists tend to view failures and setbacks as temporary, not necessarily their fault but possibly a result of the environment, luck, or others. Therefore, optimists are not easily defeated by failure. In adverse situations, they see challenges and strive harder to overcome them. The author substantiates through numerous studies that individuals with optimistic qualities are happier, more confident, and possess strong adaptability, competitiveness, and resilience in life. They often perform better academically, professionally, and athletically compared to pessimists, and they tend to have better overall health and longevity. Pessimists, on the other hand, firmly believe that setbacks and failures are their own fault and that the negative impact will persist long-term and be difficult to eliminate. They feel powerless in the face of setbacks and failures and extend this feeling to other events. For example, a student with poor chemistry grades may extend the sense of incompetence to mathematics, leading to fear of learning math, a decline in confidence, and subsequently, a sense of aversion to studying. Therefore, pessimistic individuals are prone to giving up and often fall into depression, as the Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw once said, "The optimist sees the rose and not its thorns, the pessimist stares at the thorns, oblivious to the rose." So, what are the roots of pessimism and optimism? This is the second question we're going to address. From the author's description of the characteristics of optimists and pessimists, we can see that the main cause of optimism and pessimism lies in people's explanatory styles for events. Different explanatory styles determine whether you are pessimistic or optimistic. So, what is an explanatory style? It's essentially your habitual way of explaining why something happened. Let's take an example. You come home after exercising, feeling thirsty, and you open the fridge to find only half a glass of water. Some people might think, "Wow, what bad luck, there's only half a glass of water left." But others might be grateful. "Splendid. There's still half a glass of water left." These are two completely different explanatory styles. In general, people tend to explain a sudden event from three dimensions: personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness. Personalization refers to whether people attribute the cause of an event to themselves, others, or external circumstances. For instance, a student who usually performs well in exams fails in one exam. If he attributes the failure to being too dumb, his confidence will take a hit. However, if he thinks the exam was difficult or his health wasn't good, his self-esteem and confidence won't be as affected. Permanence is about whether people believe the setbacks and failures they encounter are long-term or temporary. If someone believes their problems are always unsolvable, it can lead to negative emotions, loss of motivation and passion to find solutions, and prolonged helplessness. On the contrary, if they believe setbacks and failures are temporary and changeable, they will regain their spirit and actively seek solutions once again. For example, if you've been dieting for a week and have been avoiding dinner, but your weight hasn't decreased much. If you think, "I'll never lose weight in my life," it will make you fall into a negative mood, even thinking about giving up on the diet. But if you tell yourself, "Maybe the results aren't obvious in just a week," or "I should add some exercise," this thought can support you to continue persisting. There is another dimension of explanation called pervasiveness. This is a spatial interpretation dimension. For example, if someone loses their job, they might feel that all their past efforts were in vain, and their entire life, even their whole existence, is a failure. This is a typical case of magnifying setbacks. On the contrary, if they think being unemployed is not a big deal, considering their past efforts as experience gained, and that maybe they just aren't suitable for that job, with other skills still intact, finding a new job won't be difficult. This explanatory style can help them smoothly overcome difficulties. In summary, when people believe that everything that happens is their fault, they won't be able to solve similar situations in the future. And this event might affect other aspects of their life. Deep feelings of helplessness will arise. This is the explanatory style of pessimism. If this sense of helplessness persists for an extended period, it can eventually lead to depression. However, if they believe that unexpected events are not their fault, and the impact on themselves is temporary and won't affect other things, even if they fail, they can quickly recover. This is the explanatory style of optimism. So, why do people form different explanatory styles? And when do these styles form? The author, through years of dedicated research and experiments, found that explanatory styles are formed in childhood, typically by the age of 8. In other words, people have already developed their optimistic or pessimistic views of the world in childhood. The formation of explanatory styles primarily occurs through three pathways. The first is influenced by parents, especially the explanatory style of the mother. During childhood, children continuously ask questions, carefully listening to adults' explanations of things, and then internalizing these explanations into their own styles. Parents, especially mothers, are the most significant source of a child's explanatory style. For example, a mother and her 8-year-old daughter are about to retrieve their car from a parking lot. The daughter suddenly notices a dent on the car door. The mother's reaction is as follows. "Oh no, your father will be furious. Why do unlucky things always happen to me? If I weren't lazy and always trying to take shortcuts, this wouldn't have happened. I'm so stupid." The mother, muttering to herself, scolds herself harshly. The daughter, next to her, takes in every word. She hears 3 types of explanatory dimensions from her mother. First, unlucky things always happen to me, which is a permanent explanation. Second, this unlucky thing, not specifying the dent itself, represents a lack of delineation, a pervasive explanation. Third, I'm lazy, I'm so stupid, is a personalization explanation. The daughter, hearing her mother's 3 very pessimistic explanations of an event, gradually learns to view the world with this style. Therefore, parents should pay special attention to their words and actions in front of children, avoiding transmitting a pessimistic explanatory style to them. Children are mirrors of their parents. Personalities, behaviors, and so on are often reproduced in children. Parents who constantly sigh and lament often raise pessimistic and negative children, while optimistic parents often raise similarly optimistic and positive children. For instance, the mother could say, "Some people are just too much, hitting someone else's car and then running away. This incident can be a lesson for me. Next time, I should park in a slightly less crowded area." The second pathway is the influence of the style used by teachers or elders when criticizing children's mistakes. Children trust these individuals, can accept their criticism, and use the content and manner of criticism to construct their own explanatory styles. This is a passive form of learning. Recall when your child makes a mistake. What do you say to them? For example, a math teacher criticizing a student who failed a test might say, "The homework you turned in is always messy. You never pay attention in class. Your math will never improve." The teacher's explanation for the student's test failure is permanent, pervasive, and even personalization. This can make the student believe they are truly incapable and can't do anything well, leading to the formation of a pessimistic thinking pattern. Therefore, when criticizing children, it's important to address the specific issue and avoid categorizing criticism as permanent, pervasive, and personalization. For example, the math teacher could say, "If your math homework could be as good as it was last week every time, you wouldn't have failed this test. It's not that your math is bad, but you didn't put in your best effort, and you didn't use effective study methods." The third pathway is the experience of crises during childhood. The crises children experience in their early years, such as the departure or death of family members or friends and significant changes, can affect their explanatory styles. If these events ultimately turn positive, the successful experience will lead the child to develop an explanatory style that sees unfortunate events as temporary, specific, and external. If, on the other hand, they don't successfully overcome the crisis or change, the seeds of despair will be deeply planted in the child's heart. This understanding will influence how the child views new crises in the future, ultimately forming negative beliefs and pessimistic thinking habits. Alright, with the above, we have learned the roots of pessimism and optimism. That is, your explanatory style for an event determines whether you are optimistic or pessimistic. And this style is formed during childhood. So, can this kind of thinking habit become deeply ingrained and unchangeable? Actually, no. The author tells us that optimism is a skill that can be learned. Everyone can change a pessimistic explanatory style to a more optimistic one through effective training. This leads us to the third important topic today, how to live a more optimistic life and avoid pessimism. The author provides a set of ABCDE method to help people break free from pessimistic thinking. The author conducted a multi-year psychological resilience program at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. The experimental results showed that 90% of the participants successfully changed their pessimistic explanatory styles after learning the ABCDE method. They could handle the stresses and crises in life more constructively, enhancing their sense of happiness. So, what is this magical ABCDE method, and how does it work? Let's first look at the ABC model in the ABCDE method. This model was originally developed by psychologist Ellis. A represents a bad thing, B is your interpretation of this thing, and C represents the actions you take based on your thoughts, the consequences. When people encounter a bad thing, A, they form their thoughts about it, B, and these thoughts trigger different actions and consequences, C. Therefore, the ABC model is essentially your explanatory style for this thing. You can use the ABC diary method to record your explanatory style. The recording should be divided into 3 parts. The first part is the bad thing, A. This part should be as objective as possible without comments. For example, you can write, I called a girl I like to have dinner, but she said she's busy preparing for a professional qualification exam. Let's talk again later. The second part is your thoughts, the interpretation of the bad thing. However, do not add subjective feelings. For example, your thought might be, who would believe what she said? It must be her excuse. She doesn't really like me, otherwise, she wouldn't refuse to go out with me. The third part is your feelings and actions. Generally, you may have more than one feeling, so record them all. For example, you might think, I really feel stupid, clumsy, and ugly. I even deluded myself into thinking she was interested in me. It's all wishful thinking. You can record several cases of the ABC model. If you find that you always hold a pessimistic explanatory style, you need to use the most crucial part of the ABCDE method, which is D, to refute and interrupt this negative ABC cycle. The D stage is to argue with your negative thoughts. Once you learn to argue with yourself, you can effectively change your pessimistic explanatory style. The next time you encounter something unpleasant, you won't fall into depression. So, how should you argue? The author introduces 4 important approaches in the book. Approach 1, Evidence. The most effective way to refute negative thoughts is to provide evidence that these thoughts are incorrect, a distortion of the facts. For example, you can calmly recall the girl's usual attitude toward you. She talks to you every night until late, and she always sits next to you when friends gather. Therefore, she at least doesn't dislike you. Moreover, your height, appearance, eloquence, and job are all pretty good. With this evidence, you can move on to approach 2. Approach 2, find other possibilities. Usually, an event doesn't have only one cause but is caused by multiple factors. For example, if the girl rejects your invitation, maybe she really needs to prepare for the exam that day, or she is not feeling well. It's also possible that she is shy about having dinner alone with you, or she genuinely isn't interested in you and sees you as a backup. Pessimistic explanatory styles typically focus on finding the worst and most negative reasons, but your task is to break this thinking habit and train yourself to explore various possible reasons. Focus on changeable, specific, and non-personalized reasons. Approach 3, Implications. If unfortunately, your negative thoughts align with the facts, in this case, you should ask yourself, even if my thoughts are correct, how bad will the results be? For example, if you discover that the girl is only using you as a backup and kicks you aside after finding a boyfriend, ask yourself if it's worth being sad and upset for such a girl. Is it worth it to be unable to do anything and persist in this thought, causing more pain? So, even if your thoughts are correct, they may not have much value. Approach 4, Utility. Think about the usefulness of persisting in these negative thoughts. If you keep thinking about whether this girl likes you, the result will only affect your mood and make you unwilling to do anything. Moreover, if you persist in this thought, it may cause more suffering. So, what's the use of this thought for you? It's better to let it go and be relaxed. It's important to emphasize that the purpose of refutation is not to make your thoughts align with the facts but to fiercely attack your negative thoughts, get rid of negative emotions, and move on to the E part in the ABCDE method, evoke. This stage is about igniting positive states, generating more positive actions, or finding more meaningful solutions. For example, you might conclude from the experience that in the future, when you meet a girl you like, you should be more proactive and not engage in ambiguous situations all the time. Alright, the following is a detailed explanation and application of the ABCDE method. First, identify the bad thing and the relationship between your thoughts and consequences. If you find that you consistently hold pessimistic thoughts, you should strive to refute your pessimistic thoughts through evidence, exploring other possibilities, implications, and utility. The final step is to evoke. This step allows people to examine whether a change in their thinking leads to a change in behavior. If you can be inspired by this process, you can gradually adjust your views on everything, applying this method as a habit to develop a positive thinking pattern. Now, if a child encounters something unpleasant, how can parents use the ABCDE method to help them? Let's listen to an example. Joy is a second-grade student in elementary school. She is lively and cheerful, with consistently good academic performance, but she is a bit overweight. Recently, her mom noticed that Jo always seemed unhappy, eating very little during meals. Concerned, her mom asked her one evening if there was anything happy happening at school. Jo responded, "There's nothing happy, but there's something sad." She went on to share that some students from other classes called her fat and chubby while waiting for the school bus. She felt embarrassed and believed that her classmates were making fun of her, no longer liking her. After understanding Shaolin's ABC model, her mom provided positive guidance. She told Jo to look at herself in the mirror, emphasizing that she wasn't too fat, just a little heavier than other girls. Her round face was cute, especially when she smiled. Her mom pointed out that she had many friends who liked her for who she was, such as Susie, Nana, and Yuan. This refutation, D, sparked a positive response, E, in Shaolin. She decided to eat fewer snacks and exercise with her mom. Parents should pay attention to their children and, when they notice negative emotions, help them identify their ABC model. Guide them towards positive development, enabling them to form an optimistic explanatory style and grow into positive individuals. Although the ABCDE method can help change a pessimistic explanatory style, some may view it as a way to shift blame onto others, becoming an excuse to avoid responsibility. The author emphasizes that ABCDE is not about selfishness, it teaches how to engage in a dialogue with oneself during setbacks and failures, encouraging a more positive perspective. To sum up the main points of this book. People naturally form either pessimistic or optimistic views of the world based on their learning experiences and life events. The root cause lies in individual explanatory styles. While one's explanatory style is developed during childhood, it can be changed in later development. Optimism is a learnable skill, as emphasized by the author through the ABCDE method. This method not only changes a pessimistic explanatory style but also prevents pessimistic emotions in adults and children. The joy of life depends on how you perceive things. The book aims to teach you to navigate life's economic challenges, fostering a more optimistic mindset. Congratulations on completing another book. Thanks for listening to the Tim Booker channel. Subscribe, like, and share this valuable knowledge with friends to combine wisdom and practice, achieving financial goals and creating a better future. Thank you all, and goodbye.